God, just thank you for today and for the gift of another day to work in the Swan Factory, to work together, to wrestle with deep questions of code and technology and relationships. Pray you bless whatever time we have this week, make it fruitful for you. May we lay a good foundation for the future. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right, so I was looking at the code, and I was realizing that I'm having a hard time figuring out where we are. So I think that was a good time to actually kind of work through the code organization, as I think it'll clean things up and make it easier for me to understand where we are, as well as to explain it in the future.
Okay.
So probably working through flubits would be the best way to do this.
Are we moving files around?
Yes, we might be. Is that going to mess things up?
Yeah, I don't think I want to. I'm not sure how that's going to end up. So I would rather that one of us had control.
Okay, so why don't I? How about we do a break fix? I will move things around and break them, and then you can keep track of how to fix them.
Okay.
And so I guess I should share my screen and present everyone. So this is the latest Create Evaluator branch. Is that what you're working on most recently?
Yep.
Okay, and I get a bunch of minor trivial linted bugs. Is that expected?
No, I mean I should fix those.
Okay. Should we do that first before we break anything else?
Sure. Let me check that out.
All right. And I guess I can follow along on. What will you be making changes on? Is that? Are you able to see the code changes on Flubits?
Yeah, I can change those on Flubits.
Okay.
Actually, Flubits is not conducive to that because some of the issues are trailing white space, and I don't have a good plugin for trailing white space in Sublime.
Okay.
But that's pretty much all.
But if you change it there, I guess then I just pull it, and then I'll see it then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, probably the thing to do would be to go ahead and make the change and push everything to master and then start a new branch since we're going to be
Yeah.
up. Okay, so why don't you start on that while I start, I guess I can review the bugs that I'm most interested in. It's here. No, that's Flubits. I will come here and share my screen while you're doing that. Okay, hide that. This one. And we have an issue on this, I believe. So, questions I'm asking are implemented. How far well developed is our evaluator pipeline? Which syntax is defined?
Okay. I just pushed those changes to master.
Okay. Okay, so get check out master, get pull. Boom. Okay. And let's see. I guess technically we just do this in the Finder, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the way I was thinking about this is, so what is the build directory? That's the output.
Yeah.
Okay. Then there's a bunch of boilerplate. There's our node modules packages. Then spec is all of our tests, which is syntax and worlds currently, and then source. So I guess we start with source. So I think of this as a prefactoring. When I was trying to figure out what was going on, the three questions that I was thinking about was, how does our actually, let me add one more, which is that these are kind of the four questions I've been asking myself as we kind of go through the project management cycle. Like, which functionality have we added into our world and is already there for us to use? Which JavaScript objects or low-level runtime facilities are exposed as worlds? Have we finished our evaluation pipeline and end-to-end? And then which syntax elements have we defined? Does that seem like a reasonable list of questions to be asking?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anything that we're missing there that springs to mind?
No, that seems good. That seems
Okay.
good.
So the way I look at this is that I think of, this is one of my things that seems obvious to me, but I think is considered somewhat radical, is that I feel like the fact that we treat file systems as something other than objects is a weird historical accident. Right? That it seems like this is code just like a dictionary is code, just like an object is code. And that I want to refactor this in a way that makes it easy to answer those questions.
Okay.
So the way that I would, so I guess I should create a branch first, right? Check out -b refactor files. Let me, I guess maybe the simplest way to explain this is just brutally do it without regard for what we're breaking or destroying.
Sure.
And then figure out what makes sense.
Yeah.
The way that I imagine this being is that I have a world folder which has the world, and that I think we've done this, traditionally we've done it where we have like a top-level object outside the folder and all the children that make it up inside the folder with the same name.
Mm-hmm.
The other way to do it is to have a single folder which has all the pieces, including the high-level export wrapper thingy. In the problem I had with the first way we did it was that a lot of IDEs and viewers group all the folders together and all the files together, so the connection gets lost.
Okay.
But I don't know if there's any good organizational or stylistic reasons to have it one way or the other. I guess the one advantage of having the thing inside is that if we change the names, we don't have a lot of explicit hard coding of the dependencies. Any thoughts or feelings one way or the other?
No, I mean, that's an interesting idea. I like the idea of having all the different sort of sub things in a, like, inside the module exports of the top one. That seems actually pretty smart. Seems like a better way to organize things.
But I think that's interesting. This becomes one of this. This is actually one of these perennial questions we keep asking ourselves: is the name of an object inside of it or outside of it? And right, because anyway, let's just go with this thought for now. So no, done. I can't create a file. here. I have to do that from in. What's the easiest way to do that? I guess from the command line. If I look at the world, the different functionalities we have are, let's see, there's, so things that deal with scope, things that do, oh, I realized the one thing that would be from ES6 that would be really cool is being able to subclass array, right? Because then our worlds would be sort of directly enumerable without having to do a bunch of.
Can we not make world extend array?
Not in ES5.
Really?
I think that was one of the key features of ES6. I'm breaking everything, so we're not going to be able to see that. But no, let's just call it array. Let's look at where we implement array. There is and if you look at our the wiki, how do we call it describing these things here? There's scope names. There's encapsulation, which we don't have. Inscription, invocation. Okay, not terribly useful. So the idea being, and let's see if I can pull this up here. Does this actually help? Let's see if that changes. So in this world file that we have, right, the idea is that we have something like whatever's first. Let's go with that order actually. So class. I'm not sure. Okay, I'm not sure the name switch or anything. Let's just kind of get it. This is the body extends array if legal, which probably isn't. Then just copying this stuff randomly again, just to. In a notional sense, what's going on here. And class, I guess we need scope after that. That.
Hey, I have another window open, and I'm looking at 6to5's ability to like extend from array.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying the issue isn't. This is not actually something that a library like 6to5 can fix. You can subclass from array in CoffeeScript, but the answer from one of the owners of the 6to5 project says this is more of a limitation on ES5 engines than 6to5. For example, the behavior wouldn't be consistent or predictable across the different JavaScript engines. Happy to be proven wrong, however. And then he gives an example of subclassing array that does work on V8, but may not work on other engines. So that's the real issue.
So the ES6 will make this more consistent.
Right.
Kind of, it's barely possible. Okay, it may work for our purposes then, may not.
I mean, if we stick around writing Node, I think we can pull it off because Node runs on V8.
Right, but if we want to run this, okay, that's true. Actually, if this is a server-side thing, we're fine.
Right. If we want to run in the browser, then we have issues. Maybe. Maybe we have issues. Maybe not.
Depends on what we have. Okay. Um, the okay. It seems like most of our transpiling, at least, will be happening in the server side. So maybe we can go with that and try it. I mean, if it works, it works.
Yeah.
And then we were in scope, and then we had call. And scope. Where this is part of the and all these things here. These are stored from past experiences. So on call, we have I also realized I want to emit. I keep talking about that, right? Which is sends to out if it exists, prints to console. And then which was bad word. Put um, so this is kind of a strange design pattern that I'm using here. I don't know if there's a name for it. Whereas basically, I guess this is kind of the way I'm doing mix-ins, um, because I don't know a cleaner way to do this in JavaScript.
So you're subclassing, you're extending everything from everything?
Right, but if I'm creating a chain,
Right.
and then the only thing we export is uh, world.
Right. You want to take a look at, I mean, there's a little, do you want to implement, I mean, you can, it's pretty simple to implement our own little, like, extend method.
Right, I mean, the question is there, other than the kind of weirdness of it, is there any actual overhead this is going to cause?
No.
Okay, so we'll just stick with it. So, and then output extends call, and then maybe at the end, this basically goes class extends. Output. And everything else becomes. So that the idea would be that our world object, the different functions of world are broken out nicely into their own modules.
Mm-hmm.
So that's at least conceptually how I think of a world is that. And then what I would think of as the I guess we'll go on this rabbit trail for 10 minutes and see. You have to break at 11:15 or 11:30?
I need to like walk out the door at 11:40.
11:40. Okay, so we got a little bit of time here.
We're good.
The idea is that that God should be the only global. Then the way that I imagine so this is an interesting question about dependency aversion. There's two things that need to happen at the root level. One is to have a rendezvous point for all the names of objects that live in that space. The other is having which is kind of the top level things that are defined. And then the second piece, so there's three things that happen globally. Let's actually talk about them here. There's three things that happen globally. There's the global names available to all work pools. There's the shimming. There's the shim JavaScript runtime objects. ES6 has a real symbol class, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
Not really a huge issue, but it's an interesting one. And they do have some more reflection, right?
I believe so.
But they don't actually have method missing, do they?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. That would have been too much to hope for.
It might eventually. It's.
But the current ES6 shims and so forth don't
provide
that. So. And then is there a third thing? There's only two. The interesting question I had was dependency inversion. Is that rather than having a master make world object, the idea is that our runtime objects register themselves with a name on the God object.
Okay.
So that way we can, it should be, global should be immutable as SPI for registering modules in the namespace. Immutable as API in worlds. Can't modify it. There are some really tricky and theologically awkward discussions of whether God is ever mutable. Let's come back to the question, does God have experiences?
Or did God already have all his experiences?
Right.
He has known everything since past and future.
Right. Yes, it is an interesting question, and coming down either side leads to all sorts of theological difficulties, so we will split the difference. So then, all right, let's just keep going with the, how do I save all? Oh well. Save everything. All right. So if that's where our world is, then the next thing is, I guess, what I was calling value objects or shims. Right. These are the things that I think of. Now, is this correct? Is that up to date? The list of things inside worlds.
I think so.
We're having to evaluator.
I don't know. Let me see if I have an evaluator.
I've never seen it in a branch.
No. Oh, it's in worlds, not in syntax.
Right. Okay.
At least I see it.
Okay. Why am I not seeing it in? So I'm not seeing it anywhere in my tree.
Can you go back to Komodo?
Yes. Wait. World. So that's my world object. I see expression.
Yeah, I see it in source. Are you on master?
I'm not in my refactor files thing. Master. Okay, am I out of sync with master? Would be annoying. Did I forget to pull after? Check it out. Why do I have different files? Or is it just Komodo's confused? Maybe it's just Komodo's confused. Okay. That was probably just, okay. Fun with IDEs. Gosh, I missed TextMate. Okay, way better. Okay, and here's the worlds. So let's actually just talk through the bug to make sure we're on the same page. So the idea is that most of the time, when you're not doing funky eval stuff, you're just dealing with value objects or runtime shims. Right? There's a handful of these things which are the things that users see as the core objects of the system. The tricky part is that those are all indistinguishable, or they're deeply coupled to syntax, right? That's why users see them. So it's an interesting question about whether so there's the I think the right well, not the right one, a useful way to think about it is that move everything in worlds into syntax to start with. And then does that show up here in Komodo? No. Yes, but not the way I wanted. Okay. Now, there's let's just look at all these things here. that out for now. We have these things, which are the pipeline for processing stuff, which is basically the eval syntax, right? I mean, that's the thing that would be run if I give it a string and I want to eval it.
Right.
Eval seems like the right concept, but it's kind of a lousy name because it's short for something else. Oh, that's what we could do. No, that's not right, because syntax and semantics are still intertwined. Can't really break that out. Let's just make the directory first and then put stuff in there and see what its name is. So move letter, later, lexer, parser, and ironically syntax.coffee into the I'm not sure. I think we do have it there as the that's interesting. What if we called this expressions? Is that right? No. So this is an awkward thing, which makes me wonder if there's a semantic confusion I have in my head. So the idea is there is a we don't have a good word for this thing. I guess we call it an interpreter, right? But we don't really distinguish between the syntax and the engine. Maybe that's the right. So I like that. Behavior. Okay, I do like the of splitting out the syntax from the engine, right? In that the engine should be, in some sense, syntax neutral. Are you still with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, the idea is that there is a. I also like the idea of splitting out the syntax from the runtime, or the base classes, right? This is the so in an ideal world we would have syntax, semantics, and an engine, right? So let's see if we could. Let's just. The idea is that our globals live under God. Our engine, our semantics live under semantics. Our world lives under world. And that whatever is exported by Swan lives in Swan.coffee.
Okay.
At least at a 40,000 foot level, this looks nice to me. like when I look at this, I see this is how we think about the structure of Swan. Right? We define our world object, we export it in our global God object, and then we have an engine which maps syntax onto semantics.
Okay.
Thoughts, feelings?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Actually, can you repeat that last thing you said just one more time?
Sure. Let me actually write that down.
Summarization.
This is how we think about our code. We define a world object, which is what everything else is. We have a global, which is the coordination. Okay, we have semantic worlds which wrap our primitives. Swan primitives. We have syntax. We have syntax, which describes the visual appearance of our code with Swan files. We have an engine which turns syntax into semantics. That's everything. That sound like pretty much what I said?
Yep, it does.
So so yeah, this is in the category. This feels like how I like this. This is how I think. This is how I would like to be able to think about a programming language. Right? Is that I understand what is the fundamental type of what everything is that I'm doing with. I build that on top of whatever primitives are available for my system to define the semantics. And then a syntax is just a mapping onto that semantic that can be interpreted by a rule engine. And whether you think of it as a compiler or an interpreter is mostly irrelevant. And then you need some global namespace for managing the things so that it's loosely coupled. And then you have to export the interface.
Okay.
Okay, this satisfies the role of helping me think clearly about what I want to be doing. Okay, let's okay, and then under syntax, we have here. We have well, the car.copy should be in semantics. The not sure where expression lives. The that was wrong. There's no undo on move. Keep that. Let's do. Right. So the right, I'm just going to go fast and furious on names here, and then we'll have to figure out the thing. Our what we were calling syntax.coffee, which is now an ambiguous name, I guess is actually the thing that looks up a. So here's a design pattern that is so the utils.memolize. That was because of the forward reference problem.
Yes.
Okay. So the pattern I was imagining. Let's look at. Just throw this into utils for now. Global coordination pattern. So we have our God object, which is available globally. And then what I want, what I imagine having, this under God, I guess. Let's put this up here. Okay. This is where we talk about the. So there's the. I don't really create this easily. New file. Yes. Globals. So one set of these things is just the globals that get defined. The second thing that we want to have global coordination for is this the shimming, right? To make world of things, with the idea is that each semantic should register a constructor so that something like dot tip. Um, does that make sense?
No.
Okay, so the idea is right now we have this make world we created, which manually sets up all these things, which basically hard codes all of our different object types, right? So the idea is that in world we do that, and in a string we have um, um, in fact, maybe we should call this this design pattern, which is actually very similar to what we were doing for our syntax elements. Predicator, that's probably a bad. This is kind of our match return.
Okay.
Is that we're creating a series of routes through dependency injection, and and so then the factory is built, uses that route. It may actually even be factory.route.
Okay.
Well, it would be factory.route. I wanted. It is, if we can do that, does that get rid of our coupling problem?
I mean, so the coupling problem, right? The forward dependency sort of weirdness that we started dealing with started because god.coffee has a toS method, which converts whatever you are into a swan string. Right?
Right.
So really, the only way this is going to fix it is if swan string then decides to define toS on God, which seems
not unreasonable.
It's not unreasonable, but it's also very confusing. Like it severely violates Well, I don't know what.
Actually, no, it makes sense. Who else should define it, right? I have the right as SPI to define globals.
Semantically, I can understand why it's SwanString's responsibility to do that. But in terms of actually interacting with the code, like injection like that of all these methods is going to turn into a like kind of a severe headache, don't you think? Like you don't it becomes impossible to know who's defining what where because everyone's defining stuff on everything on everybody else.
Not on everybody else. This is really, really important. There's only one global.
Mm-hmm.
There are no other requires.
Okay.
Right? Is that when I guess we'll have to call them angels, right? Is that when we're creating the universe, the angels, for their area of responsibility, define. In fact, it makes a lot of sense, really. Shouldn't God dot scope define get and put on the God object, right? They know what they need God to be, right?
Like I said, semantically, it actually does make sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
semantically, yeah, so it does make sense for SwanString to define 2s. I'm just saying from the perspective of actually trying to read the code. It's
Which code?
huh?
Read which code?
This code, like read the actual source for the language, this library. It's just going to be really confusing.
Well, is it though? I mean, we are doing explicitly what every other language in the world does implicitly, right? Ruby, class foo, is throwing the word foo into the global namespace, right?
Right.
We're being honest about it.
You know what? Okay. All right. All right. No. You know what? You're right. I see what you're saying. Okay. If you are actually no, you're right. That's fine. I get it.
Is that
No, you're right. If you actually think of God as being your global space, then yeah, anybody can define stuff on that. That makes sense.
right? Or that, but yeah, and that we keep, and then we keep track of what's going on there. And so,
Right. So my issue was just the idea that you can't look at God and get an idea for what's defined, but that's okay.
right,
That's okay.
that is the
You're right.
yes.
All right. Okay. Cool.
No man can see God. Okay. Yes. So the God, right? So God coffee is really going to be just the setting up the global, and that actually deals with a lot of the other coupling problems we were having, right? Where, in scope.coffee, right? In scope.coffee, this is where this thing actually become empty. This should be emptied out into different concepts, right? So that do and done are actually defined in call.coffee.
Okay.
Right. So God is actually not a world. God would just be the placeholder for a global object domain. This is the Buddhist idea that God is actually nothing. Kind of comes full circle in that, or conversely, we cannot really know God. We can only know that aspect of Him that we experience in the world, right? When the call function, the callable worlds, all they know is that God is callable. Do and done are defined there.
Yep.
All right. So then the idea is okay. So what are we actually saying about this then? Is that Each module defines methods on God that it relies upon. Semantic elements define semantic objects append to factory as syntax. Semantic singular or plural? And syntax, is syntax already plural?
No, I don't think so. I think syntax is singular.
There is a syntax, but is there a semantic? Or are there semantics?
Semantic is an adjective sometimes. Right? You can describe something as being semantic.
Right, so semantic web is certainly, I guess semantic and syntactic are the parallel words, right?
Kind of, yeah.
We have to invent the word here. Let's see what we can do here. So syntactic versus semantic. Well, syntax and semantically, syntactically, semantically. But why is the word syntax versus syntactics?
I don't know.
Okay, let's see.
I really don't know.
Origin, semantic. There's a singular. I hate having asymmetric labels, but I guess so the idea is, yeah, that actually makes, I think that actually works, right? Is we have these route objects that have these behaviors, and that we register our semantics. Each element in semantics registers its semantics with the God object, and every syntax element registers itself with the God object.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so then those then become our routers, and then we just call the appropriate right, so semantics, so our make world becomes semantics. Right. IPC prediction on semantics. Where is this? Uh, element would be the one that's. Is replaced by syntax. And then this is the this is the front end of our thing, right? This is the thing that. I wonder if this is replaced by. No. So this is the thing that calls. This is the. We don't really have a good word for this thing, right? The thing that begins the Alexing process.
Mm-hmm.
Right, this is sort of like ingest. It's first stage.
Oh, Ernie, it's 11:40. I gotta do.
Yes. Okay.
I gotta get going. Sorry.
All right. I will push this up there, and then maybe you can just ping me at 2 or 3 whenever you finish all your meetings and interviews.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
This is good. I like. I feel like the project is getting more clear as you talk through this stuff, and yeah, it seems definitely like a worthwhile thing to do. It seems like we're moving in the right direction to me.
Great. Thank you. I'll let you go. Goodbye.
Yeah. Thanks, Ernie. Bye.
Bye.